Max Verstappen's Red Bull future has just gone off on another wild tangent. And this time, it's not even paddock gossip. The four-time world champion is actually being seriously linked with a shock transfer to Mercedes. After the latest statements from George Russell and Toto Wolff, and after Max's disappointment at the Austrian Grand Prix, the idea of him quitting Red Bull no longer reads like clickbait. It's becoming reality. Could we actually get Max in silver, not red, after 2026? And if so, what becomes of Russell? Because for this dream to become a reality, Mercedes would have to make something of an offering, a big one. It started with a rumor, a fantasy, and yes, Toto Wolff's been called mad on more than one occasion. But Verstappen to Mercedes? It's starting to look less madness and more master plan. Even before the Austrian GP, Russell openly admitted that there were negotiations going on with Max. And no, he wasn't anxious about it, because when the best driver on the grid finds himself suddenly out of work, every top team is obligated to call him. Now add the mayhem at Austria, and Max's departure makes more and more sense. And let's be clear, I'm not blaming Red Bull for what happened. Andrea Kimi Antonelli lunged into a corner, locked up the rear end in a move eerily similar to Bottas's infamous crash in Hungary 2021. And just like that, Max was taken out. Again, same victim, different rookie. You'd expect Max to be furious, livid. That type of DNF could be the final nail in his coffin for his 2024 championship hopes. But instead, Max did not flinch. He hugged Antonelli. He heard. He let it go. Yeah, he's always polite with rookies, but not when they spin him out of a race like that. So ask yourself, what does that say about you? Here's a theory. Maybe he wasn't just being nice. Maybe he was engaged in a quiet little chat with his future Mercedes teammate. A few months ago, all of this seemed like a pipe dream. Wolff was actively backing his duo, Russell and Antonelli. But now, the dynamics are shifting rapidly. Max may finally be coming to understand what few have had the courage to actually say out loud, that his Red Bull era might already be concluded. The era of dominance is behind them now. Yes, he won the miraculous fourth title on a car that finished third in the Constructors' Championship overall. But that's history already. And what about signing Max to Mercedes in 2026? Toto Wolff did not use circuitous language or speak PR speak double talk. He was direct. He was forceful. This is something he wants to have done before the new rules set in. He said, "We're very open in the team as to what we're doing and what we're going to do, and that's been the case since I was put in charge. That's not the issue at the moment. Of course, you have to look and see what's happening in the future. But it doesn't change anything of what I've said so far about George, about Kimi, about the lineup that I'm very happy to have. I like having the debates in back rooms, not town halls. I can see every roster. I had Rosberg and Hamilton fighting it out for a world championship, so all the rest afterward is a piece of cake. There are pros and cons to having two drivers racing against each other at full throttle. We've seen examples where that functions, and others where it didn't. And just to spice things up even more, enter Helmut Marko. Yes, Marko loves stirring the pot. Yes, he thrives on drama. But when it comes to Max Verstappen's future, trust one thing. Marko knows exactly what's going on. He's not just a senior figure. He's arguably Max's closest ally inside Red Bull. So when does he get querulous? You listen. And that's exactly what happened. Marko spoke openly to worry that Max could be in silver by 2026. He warned that the freedom Max currently has at Red Bull, the kind of freedom no other driver gets, would end at Mercedes. He pontificated, "This story that everyone wants to signal Max is getting boring. He is under contract to us until 2028, and if we give him a competitive car, there is no way that he will depart. With us, he has a lot of freedom, which he would not have with Mercedes." Wool has been in the sport for a very long period of time to be fooled by the momentary situation in the team, regardless if it's Mercedes or Red Bull. We're talking about the Austrian team principal knows that if Verstappen is available, he'll do everything it takes to bring him to his own team. If you have Russell talking about how this is a normal thing, then you know it's already happening behind closed doors. The time frame is very narrow. Rumors have it that by Silverstone, which is next week, we should know what's going to happen with the Mercedes lineup. It's going to affect Red Bull as well, because they're going to lose the centerpiece of their project. I don't see them being competitive beyond 2026. If Max is not on the team, regardless of who's going to replace him and how much their engineers are going to be dominant, and again, I'm returning to the fact that Russell is aware his future in Mercedes is heavily affected by the decision of Max. In the past couple of years, the Brit had some fierce battles with Verstappen on the track, as Barcelona was great proof of how Russell is not ready to give up just because he's in an inferior car. But if we're to look at the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships, I don't think the difference between Russell and Verstappen is that big in terms of their cars. So Wolff knows that the man he missed once in his teenage years and allowed Red Bull to get away with is in a very vulnerable position right now with his team. So, being the hunter he is, Toto is not letting anything slip by elaborating further on this situation and how he's affected by it. Russell said, "It's only normal that conversations with the likes of Verstappen are going on, but from my side, if I'm performing as I'm doing, what have I got to be concerned about? There are 2 seats in every Formula One team. Toto has made it clear to me that how I'm performing is as good as anybody. There is only one driver that you can debate in terms of performance. These are his words and not my words, and that's why I have no concern about my future. But there are 2 seats for every team, and I guess he needs to think about who those 2 drivers are, and the words of Wolff regarding Russell are not disappointing at all. He's very happy about his driver, and the fact that he's now has a chance to overtake Verstappen in the Drivers' Championship speaks volumes about the growth he's experienced in Mercedes after the Austrian Grand Prix. Russell is just 9 points behind Verstappen, and that is both good and bad news for him. The good news, he's performing on the level of Max and is proving to Wolff that he can be the driver that he desperately needs in Verstappen. The bad news, if he overtakes Max for P3, he could cause the Dutchman to activate his exit clause with Red Bull and talking about a potential move to Mercedes further, putting his seat in danger. It's a dangerous game that's currently going on in Formula One. But at the end of the day, this sport is not for the weak. Everyone knows what is at stake, and I guess Russell now understands that the talks that he had with her were not purely informative about a potential scenario that could happen outside of their command. In this case, you need to ask yourself, where could Russell find his next home? If it's not with Red Bull, Aston Martin has shown a lot of interest in George and has labeled him to be the next driver to lead their project in 2026. And if there's one thing that Lawrence Stroll knows, it's the fact that drivers like Russell and Verstappen are not often available on the grid, and all of a sudden, you have a very interesting situation that could shake up the F1 world as we know it. Helmut Marko is now also very aware of Max's potential signing with Mercedes, which is why he warned him about the fact that he could be losing from Red Bull if he were to just give up on the Austrian team's project. But on the other hand, he's also laughing at the statements that have been made by Russell saying the Mercedes driver just talks too much when addressing these comments by George regarding Max's involvement with Mercedes. Marko didn't mince any words as he elaborated. "What's up with Russell now? He does talk, but I thought he had a fixed contract for the next year that must have changed since Montreal did his victory hurt him." Well, I have no opinion on that. Russell says so much. It's just a theoretical game. All of this is putting a fresh spin on the silly season that could be prompted by Verstappen, and whether you like Marko or not, his statements do make the most sense. It's a theoretical game. So far, you can't actually do anything about it until it unfolds in practice. And apart from analyzing things from a professional point of view and giving your own verdict on this situation, we can't do anything else either. However, the fact that Mercedes want Verstappen and Max isn't happy with the Austrian team does speak volumes about where we could see the 4-time world champion drive next in his career. With all of this in mind, what do you think about the latest development regarding the Verstappen Red Bull era? And more importantly, do you think the Dutchman would be much better with the Brackley base squad in the newly regulated era? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now.